Let me get this out first. I don't swim anymore. Not in lakes, not in rivers, and sure as hell not in anything deeper than my sink. The reason: November 3rd, 2004. Late season, warm weather, middle of nowhere. A place called Lake Harrow, tucked about 40 minutes east of Denton, Texas. I was a state-certified recovery diver with the Search and Rescue Corps back then, and they'd only call me in when things got real bad. And this was worse than bad. It started with a radio call about a van plunging into the lake after swerving off a causeway during a freak thunderstorm. A family of 4. Driver lost control, clipped the guardrail, and went over. Local law enforcement got there first and pulled the youngest boy from the water, still breathing, but the rest missing. The van, too. I arrived on site by sundown. Dozens of officers, volunteers, and paramedics were already scattered along the narrow causeway and shoreline. But what struck me first wasn't the chaos. It was the frogs. Thousands of them, hopping everywhere, littering the road, the shoreline, even jumping into the backs of pickup beds. Great ugly things, almost bloated, their croaking loud enough to make your teeth vibrate. One of the cops, new guy, fresh out of academy, was using a shovel to clear a path through them just so I could reach the command tent. Inside, I met Commander Torres. He was chewing his 3rd stick of gum when I arrived, not for habit, but to keep from gagging. The whole lake, he said, stank. Not of oil or decay or sewage, but like sulfur, like rotten eggs cracked open in the sun. They're calling it a freak bloom, he told me, shaking his head as he handed me the preliminary report. Sulfuric venting from deep silt layers or something. Biologists are en route. I thumbed through the paperwork. You get a sonar scan yet? Torres hesitated. Yeah, and that's where it gets weird. He took me to the edge of the pier where the scanner tech was working. We mapped the basin twice, he said, and this thing keeps showing up on the readout. Right here. He pointed to the digital display, a long, undulating shape, nearly the length of a school bus. At first, I thought it was a school of fish, or maybe sediment kicked up in a current. But it moved. The shape moved, back and forth across the lower basin, just above the sunken shelf. Not consistent, not natural. You thinking what I'm thinking? I muttered. Torres just gave a slow nod. That lake's got a drop-off like a stairwell into hell. We want you down before we send the ROV, so I geared up, did a triple check of my tanks, lights, and tethers. I've done hundreds of dives, wreck retrieval, body recovery, even some sinkhole mapping in Mexico. I wasn't worried. Not until I stepped into that water. It was warm, almost bathwater warm. Steam hung just above the surface, rolling in low ribbons. And those frogs, they weren't croaking anymore. They were silent, just staring with those milky, glintless eyes. I slipped below. Visibility was garbage, maybe 3 feet. Mud clouds, filmy algae blooms, and flakes of debris spun around my mask. I followed the guide rope tethered from the dock down into the basin, gliding deeper, light bouncing uselessly off the muck. The van showed up on sonar again, this time farther than we expected, perched on a rock outcropping past the shelf drop. I changed course and descended. At 35 feet, the water temperature plummeted. At 40, it became dark. The kind of dark where your own light starts looking small. I spotted the van by its headlights, miraculously still glowing. It had landed nose first, the front windshield shattered inward. I swept around it, peering into the cabin. The driver was still strapped in. She was tilted at an unnatural angle, neck bent sideways, but her eyes were open. Her skin was pale, lips blue, hair floating like kelp in the current. I felt something thump against my tank. I turned. Nothing. Just the beam of my light slicing the haze. I unlatched the driver's belt and gently floated her body toward the surface. I clipped her to a buoy and gave the signal up top. Moments later, the surface team confirmed retrieval. I was about to rise when something caught my eye, a glint beneath the van. I dove lower and found the passenger door torn off. The interior was torn to shreds. Fabric, plastic panels, even the seats ripped open. No sign of the other family members. That's when I saw the bite marks. Not tears, not pressure damage. Bites, massive ones, clean impressions, rows of jagged dental patterns crushed into the frame. Some still held shreds of cloth and what looked like, God help me, hair. I radioed up. "Torres, there's something wrong down here. This wasn't from impact." "Copy that," he said. "Pull up, now." But I didn't get the chance. From behind me, deep in the murk, I heard it. A sound no diver wants to hear, a rhythmic drumming like distant thrumming or the pulse of a giant throat. Then silence. My light flickered, and something big brushed past my leg. It wasn't a fish, wasn't a gator. It was too smooth, too slow, too deliberate. And it circled. I kicked hard, rising back to 25 feet when my tether jerked me to a stop. I spun around. The guide rope was gone, chewed through. I panicked, heart pounding, breath racing, my mask fogged in seconds. I kicked toward where the slope should have been, but I wasn't moving. I was being pulled. Down. I screamed into my mouthpiece and switched to the secondary air source. The pressure clamped on my temples as I descended involuntarily, limbs thrashing. Then I saw it. Not clearly, just shapes. A long serpentine body gliding through the water, wrapping around the broken shelf. White, pale, near translucent flesh. Dozens, no hundreds, of eyes, small as dimes blinking independently. And mouths, not just one. It was full of mouths, small, sucking ones. Some round like lamprey, others jagged, snapping with rows of brittle teeth. It wasn't hunting me, it was curious. One of the mouths latched onto my calf. I felt the skin tear. Blood billowed into the water. That's when I did the dumbest thing I've ever done. I dropped my tank. I unclipped, cut loose from the weight and rose. Too fast. My head felt like it would explode. My nose started to bleed. I pushed through it, powered upward, the creature brushing behind me, tugging. But I broke the surface. They pulled me out. I was vomiting, screaming, half blind. My leg was torn open like meat in a grinder. One of the medics fainted just seeing it. They airlifted me that night, a week in the hospital. And the frogs, they were still there when I left, still watching. The recovery team never found the remaining bodies. Divers refused to go back. Even the ROV malfunctioned 3 times, sending back footage that engineers refused to analyze. They closed Lake Harrow a month later. put up fencing, called it a landslide risk and unstable sediment conditions. But I know what I saw, and I know what lives down there. So no, I don't swim anymore, not even in pools. Because sometimes when I close my eyes in the bathtub, I still feel something gliding just beneath my feet, and I hear the mouths, waiting.